Hello, and the claim that I'll be responding to is investing in green energy faster than its current rate would replace the jobs that were lost in the coal mining industry within the Rust Belt between 2011 and 2016. This is a long claim with multiple components. My opponent's secondary claims were 1, how many jobs are lost, 2, the types of jobs in green energy, and 3, how many jobs would be created. For his first secondary claim, there are insufficient signs to reach this conclusion. He presents a fallacy of presumption, begging the question. In his first secondary claim, all he does is reinsure his main claim. He says that there were jobs lost, that what states are within the Rust Belt, and that these states have a lot of mines. This is all information that was provided in his claim. The only thing he added in his first secondary claim was this statistic of how many jobs were lost during this time. Although he does this, none of the information he says supports the claim he is trying to make. In his second secondary claim, the types of jobs that are in green energy. His second claim is more of an informative speech about the types of jobs in green energy than evidence for his main claim. He presents a fallacy of presumption. He is overlooking the facts and making a sweeping generalization when he says, obviously in Kentucky you can't have hydropower because it is not adjacent to a large body of water. He fails to overlook the fact that you can use lakes, dams, and rivers to allow hydropower as a green energy to work, as noted by the Energy and Environment Cabinet of Kentucky. When he was talking about energy efficiency, in his second point, he's overlooking the facts, a fallacy of presumption purification. As part of different jobs in green energy, he says, also the giant pile of trash in the middle of the ocean. Here he's saying that either workers are looking for jobs to find them within the Rust Belt or they have to go elsewhere to find jobs. In his third secondary point, how many jobs would be created, he presents a fallacy of presumption by distorting the facts. In his third point, it seems that as if he is proving his point and the claim, but his evidence is not proving the point that is in dispute. For example, he says, within solar energy, according to the Solar Energy Industries and Association, there are currently 209,000 people working in the industry of America. This shows that how many people are currently working in these types of jobs in America, but not specifically within the Rust Belts that he states in his main claim, which is what he's trying to refer to, the Rust Belt states. In his main claim, the first part says, investing in green energy faster than its current rate. Although his speech never mentions investing in green energy as a statistic in these states that his claim is referring to. At the end of his third secondary claim, he says, if these states were to actually start investing now, this statement suggests that these claims have not yet begun to invest in green energy. Yet his claim does state that they have since, he says, faster than its current rate. This is very contradictory. It is untrue that these states have not yet started using green energy. For instance, in Kentucky, about 4% of their electricity comes from hydroelectric power. This comes directly from the Energy and Environment Cabinet of Kentucky.
All right, well, structurally it starts off pretty strong. You label the claim, which is a long claim, as you acknowledge, and the secondary points pretty well. On the first point, you suggest that there's a lack of proof on the point, and then you suggest that this really doesn't matter because that is just informational in nature. There's no inference being drawn on it in the first place. So I don't know why you bother arguing that there's not any signs to support the conclusion when ultimately your point is going to be no inference is being made here. It simply describes here's what the number of jobs are that are being lost in these industries over a period of time. That's not particularly controversial. The question then becomes that's basically background information. It doesn't advance an argument except it gives us a standard by which we're looking at. How many jobs can green industries provide? Would that measure up to the jobs that are being lost here? I felt like a lot of the argument that you're making there doesn't get you anything in the long run. I think your stronger arguments are on the second and the third point. On the second point, where you're talking about the different types of jobs, you do suggest that places in the Rust Belt, places like Kentucky, for instance, can have green energy jobs. And you mentioned hydroelectric power. In fact, you document the hydroelectric power in your last point, how much energy Kentucky currently produces from those sorts of things. What's missing here is a question about the jobs issue. I don't know that producing hydroelectric power generates that substantial number of jobs. The electricity supports a variety of jobs, and in the absence of electricity, there would certainly be problems. But in generating the electricity, I don't know, I have no idea how many jobs it creates. The advocate doesn't tell us how many jobs are going to be created there, and you don't really tell us except to say that jobs already exist there. And I think that that's a reasonable point to make. I think that you want to take the more general response here that suggests, look, nobody is saying that we shouldn't be investing in green jobs. The question is, how much faster should we be investing in green jobs? The advocate suggests that we should abandon industries that we currently have and replace them all with green energy jobs. I think your argument ought to be we're in the process of doing that incrementally, but it's not something that would benefit us to do immediately, because that's what his argument is. Tomorrow we should all be solar, we should all be hydrogen, and we should get rid of today fossil fuels and coal and all those sorts of things. Could our economy handle that? I think that's the big question. Is it going to be cost effective? I think that's the big question. Can the jobs that are being created in the one industry be filled by people in the other industries? Those are the questions that I think you need to look at a little bit. You get it to that third one a little bit when you talk about the cleanup kind of thing of the giant garbage patch, which I'm not sure has anything to do with the subject that's being discussed, why it's even sitting there. But let's assume for a second that it did. Well, what are we going to do? Ship all the coal miners from Pennsylvania to the middle of the ocean to pick up garbage? That doesn't make any sense. How is that going to work? Or, for instance, if their job that they spent 20 years digging coal out or operating equipment in a coal mine, how is that going to be the equivalent of installing solar panels on people's roofs in different parts of the country? And could you even do that in the parts of the country where these jobs currently exist? Your argument is that it's incumbent on the advocate to show that those things could happen and that they failed to show those things can happen. Sometimes I got the feeling that you were going for all of the fallacies that we talked about, and you've got the terminology in there, but you're not always making the claim as clearly as you need to. You've got the label for the fallacy, but you don't tell us, well, so here's what this means. You can't reach this conclusion with the evidence that's being presented, or this claim is not relevant to the major claim that is being presented here. And that's the simpler way to express those things. And I think that would have benefited you a little bit more. Like I said, on the third point, I thought you did a little bit better job talking about some criticism of the evidence that the advocate used when it came to the number of jobs in solar. And then also you had some information about the amount of hydroelectric power produced in Kentucky. In the long run, what does that all mean? Does that mean that how does that support or undermine the position the advocate's taking? I'm not sure. We don't. I thought you said at the very beginning, we don't ever get any comparative data. What's our current level of investment? What's the disparity between what we have and what we don't have? That's what's necessary here. All right. So, On Thursday, we're going to hear a couple of speeches first. I think we've got 3 people that we have to catch up with. We'll get those out of the way first. Then we'll do the qualifying test. That's 15 questions. You need a quiz strip for that. And then we'll do the group part of the test. If you haven't formed groups at that point, you can form groups then. But the groups need to be 3 to 5 people. You can't have fewer than 3, and you can't have more than 5 in your group, okay? All right, we'll see you Thursday.
Is the qualifying testing everything that we've read so far?
The qualifying test and the midterm cover the same material.
Is there like a...
There's a study guide already posted. Did you not come in?
Is it
You
on
must come in a
files?
little bit late. Yes, it's in the assignment tab on the files tab on my gateway. So there is a study guide up for you.
All right, thank you.
Is it the same Scantron stuff?